Why, hello everyone, and welcome to our next session of our EDU on Air. I'm Jay Atwood, and for the next half an hour or so, I'm going to be working with you a little bit on one of my favorite applications within the G Suite of tools, and that is Google Sheets. So when I was thinking of what to do with this session, I thought, well, you know what, I've talked to a lot of people around the world in my job, and what I get to do, I get to travel around the world and talk to a lot of people. And I always get asked some of the same questions, or I find a tip or a trick that is really resonates with everybody. So that's really what I'm going to focus on in this particular hangout here. A little bit about me and what I do. I work for EdTech Team, and we do educational technology training around the world, and I'm a regional director, so I look after the green part of the world there. This is a small piece for India, Middle East, Asia, and Africa. And yes, I live over there in Sydney, so that's why I am here and working on the EDU on Air for ANZ. So I'm really happy, excited to be here. So for our agenda today, this is really what we're going to be taking a look at. These are kind of the 5 main tips or the 5 key pointers that have really resonated a lot with people when I've traveled around the world and leading different trainings. And so I thought I'd share them with you. And we have to, we're going to have this hands-on activity. So I am going to be starting you off with a starter sheet here in a second, and we'll be looking at that and working on that throughout our time together. So these are the 5 areas that we're generally going to cover. Make it feel like sheets. There's a difference between a spreadsheet and tables. And sometimes when I see people working in spreadsheets, they really are having more of a summarizing table than they do have a spreadsheet per se. So we're going to take a look at some of those characteristics. We're going to look at sheetscaping and making it look good. You don't have to just have white and bland and black and white spreadsheets with everything all equal. It can look creative. It can be appealing to the eye, and which will help make it easier to read as well. Trust or don't trust, validate. Normally the saying is trust but validate. We do it the opposite way here when we're dealing with data and spreadsheets. We want to make sure that there are no mistakes, or there are as few mistakes as possible. So we're going to be using some data validation and some different tricks there to work on that. Laziness is a virtue is my new favorite mantra, and I'll be sharing with you one of my favorite resources for that. But by that I mean you don't have to do all the heavy lifting. You don't have to do all the work. When somebody talks to me and they are going on about how they've spent so much time looking at a particular thing or working on something, and I keep thinking to myself, if they only would have asked me, an hour ago, I could have told them a little tip or trick, because the spreadsheet does the work for me most of the time. I put it to work, and so we're going to learn a couple of formulas that are quite helpful. I've been using them a lot lately. And the last thing is just to go forward and kind of make magic and share you do and what you come up with sheets. Okay. So let's kind of go into this. And like I said, this is going to be a demo and do session here. There we are. And this is the starter sheet that we're going to be pulling from. So it's edtech.team/sheets-tips. And I'm going to make sure that works as well. EdTech, there's no .coms in there. edtech.team/sheets. It should force you to make a copy, right? So I'll leave that up there for just another second while people get into it. Okay. And so I'm going to share my screen on this other computer here. Yes, I'm being kind of a geek here with how this is working, but this is the best way to do it. There we go. So you should end up on a page that looks like this. Remember, that's edtech.team/sheets-tips with capital S and capital T. So you can rewind and go back a little bit later too if you want. That sheet tips will pull you into this stage where it will allow you, or forces you to make a copy. So we are able to click the blue copy button, and it will do that for us. So now with our spreadsheet here in front of us, we have the ability to, we're going to be working our way throughout this, or across this the different tabs in this spreadsheet. And then I actually have to make mine a little bit smaller because my window or my broadcast buttons are in the way. So I'm going to move that up so we can see the bottom row there. So this is just a basic spreadsheet with different tabs across the bottom. And like I said, when we're going back to some of those early things that I was that I was looking at and that I was working on and that I was finding people found, or the questions they had, it was kind of interesting, and it started to pile up over time. One of the things that I like to do, one of my kind of motives in life right now, is to make everybody a little bit nerdier. I've always liked to do that, and I'm going to do that again this time. I'm going to make you become much more of a Sheets geek than you already are. By the end of this, you might learn something that you never thought was even possible before. Hopefully so. So make it feel like Sheets. We've got our copy made, and we've got that hanging out in another window, and we have these are kind of the things that I like to talk about when I say make it look like a spreadsheet, not like a table. So is it just a sheet or is it a table? And the difference, if you go over to your sample sheet, your copy of, on the second tab at the bottom in the Sheets table, I just have a little, this is a simple graphic here's literally a table. This is more a tabular type of reporting style than it is a spreadsheet per se. Whereas in spreadsheets, we have records that go down the column A, basically, or down the vertical axis, and across the horizontal axis are generally fields. So you think of it like a database is really the best way. You should be keeping or structuring your database or your spreadsheets. Now, with that, you think of it, these fields across the top, and everything, that's the individual data about each of those records. Some of us who are a little bit older might have remembered a checkbook register. It kind of has that same concept. That was one of your first databases that you ever kept, if that was part of your growing up. So you have to make sure that you have these, you use it in a tabular format rather than in a kind of a diagrammatic format. It's like we do in this other data table with legend there. Okay. So when I talk about these different things, I have the second line I had on there was about resisting the urge to merge. A while ago, it's been in Sheets for a little while, but we have the ability to select a certain number of cells, and there's a merge button. So we have the different merge types. We can merge horizontally and vertically, or we can just click the button and it'll pull all those into one chunk. Now people like to do this a lot because they say, oh, this is the thing for Monday, and all of these things, 1, 2, 3 those are all going to be happening on Monday as they go. So they'll do something like that, and they'll like have all those be there. Then they'll say, oh, these ones, let's batch those together. Let's go ahead and do that, and that's Tuesday. So some of you are thinking, yeah, I do this all the time. Well, this is we're starting to get away from, we're destroying the structure of a spreadsheet in this case. Because what happens if we want to say this is the day of the week and this is the activity, what if we wanted to have those things and we want to sort them? So I turn on my little filter and sort tool here, and it's a problem. I can't do that when there's vertical merges. So if I wanted to sort these activities in different ways and not really care about the date or have that stay with each one individually, I've broken that. So you have to resist the urge to merge. That feature was also added into Google Docs, into tables within Google Docs, and it kind of plays the same role there, but really that's really more for displaying data than it is about working with data. So resist that urge to merge. That'll help you keep things nice and tidy on your table when you go to run and do data analysis and do different types of activities with it later on. When you unmerge the cells, just double click on the little square in the lower right hand corner, and that will fill in. Now what this did, and you'll see this is a thing characteristics with fills, is that it tries to create a pattern, like it does a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or it might do the days of the week. In this case, what I want to do, if I just double click that little box, it thinks it's helping me, and in this case it's not. So I'm going to undo it, and I'm going to hold down the Option key. So on a Mac, I'm holding down I'll just right here, the Option key on a Mac, and I think that it is the Control key on a Windows machine or a Chromebook. If I hold down that and I drag this down, now I get Monday filled throughout each one. Okay, so the difference was when I double clicked on it without the option, it puts the series in, and when I hold down the option and I double click, it puts the same thing, repeats the value over and over again. Okay, so there's a little bonus tip there for you. So make sure that you don't, you try to avoid those merge cells. It might make things look nice in the end, but that's just the last part of dealing with the spreadsheets is getting the graphs and the charts out of them to start to analyze that. We have to get the data in there,
And we really want it to be in a solid format where it's like this, where we might say that it's tabularized, that every row has every record across the horizontal has a value in every single cell. And so we want to make sure it looks like, kind of like I said before, like the checkbook register. If I double click those down, again, series, if I hold on the option, get the same one, okay? So this is more of a data table where we've got our fields across the top, and these would be our records going down the side. And every single one is filled in. You don't have any blanks. We don't want to have any blanks in the middle of these data sets, because that is going to cause us some problems a little bit later on, okay? So that's my first tip. Make it feel like sheets, right? Make it feel like sheets, make it feel like a spreadsheet and not like some other form of a table or graphical display. My second set of tips is around what I like to call sheetscaping. You don't have to have spreadsheets that look boring, that are just black and white. You can make them look nice, and you can make them more functional. So I've got a few different ways that I like to do this, and actually I've thrown in a couple bonus ones in here as well. So let's jump back over to my spreadsheet, and we're going to go over to the next tab, the gradebook tab. Now, some of you might be lost already, and that's fine. That's perfectly cool. Just sit back and watch. Luckily, this is on YouTube, so you can come back and you can watch it at another time. And you rewind it and you listen to the sound of my voice over and over again if you'd like. But additionally, I also have little tip notes filled in where these little nicked corners are, these little kind of dog ears up at the top right of each of these cells. Whenever you see one of those little black tick marks, it means that there's something happening under there. There's some information there, and if it's a formula that you need to type in, I don't want you to type it in, I just want you to copy it and paste it, because laziness is a virtue, and we like copy paste in that case. So this is our sheet that is our gradebook, and it looks kind of familiar to most of us. It has some basic information in there, and we've got some incomplete information. So in this case, we don't have the numbers 1 and 2 all the way down. Well, if I select those and I double click, it's going to fill all those all the ways down to the end. My 18 rows here, I've got a couple invisible students down there at the bottom. But that allows us to keep give everybody a number there. I like to do that because sometimes we want to sort by that. So we've got that information there. Now if our class is really big, and we start to scroll down, we lose all that stuff at the top. You know, this first row, the column headers here. So I've seen people go do this, and they copy that, and they go down here, and then they paste it. And I'm not naming any names, but I've seen people do this, and I thought, oh no, that's not the way you need to do that. So we're going to undo all that, and this might change your life forever. If you put your mouse over the top corner here, this origin, when it turns into the Mickey Mouse glove and the bar goes blue, grab a hold of it and drag it down one, let it go, and you are now frozen. So those will always stay there. Yeah, that might be the single most functional usability task I give anyone, and I do that to all the spreadsheets I ever touch, so people know that I've been in their spreadsheets that way. So pull that down and freeze them, and that's going to make reading it a lot easier. If we want to go ahead and we want to make sure that we want to make it look nicer as well, we want to make it more easy to read, I can do Command or Control A to select all the data in the cells. You see I've just selected any cell here in the middle. A for select all, and it gives me just the things that the cells that have data in them. It didn't give me the full spreadsheet. Now with this, let's go ahead and let's do alternate color rows. This came in not too long ago, not too distant past. Under our fill colors, we have a couple of options with conditional formatting, which I love, and alternate color rows or alternating colors. So if I click that, it's going to automatically jump into a gray pattern here. If I want something a little brighter, let's do a yellow maybe, yellow-orange, and you are able to put different selectors on here. You can change the color, formatting style. You can create your own as well, and go ahead and you edit any of these little color buckets here, and you can make it as ugly or as cool as you want to. And just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? We don't really want a bunch of spreadsheets going around like that. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it very quickly again. And I'm going to fill it alternating colors. Let's do the yellow one. And remember to hit done down here. That's something that I've messed up on before. And I go around, start moving around, and it's not there. So let's do we've got our rows in there. Now it's good, but we've got all these extra rows at the side. Now, we all know there's 26 columns in the original spreadsheet, and there are 1,000 rows. So my command down arrow or control down arrow, it takes me right down to the bottom. So I get 1,000 rows. And when I go back up to the top, I just hit the command or control up arrow as well, and that jumps me to the end of the data sets. Let's select all again here. Command A, select all, control A. And now I've already installed this, so I've got this pre-baked already, and I have one add-on for Google Sheets called Crop Sheet. So you guys are able to then see here what some of my other add-ons that I have here in this account, but there are tons of them out there, and Crop Sheet is a nice little quick one to put in here. And in this case, I've already selected how much I want to crop out. That's the stuff I want to keep. When I hit crop to selection, it goes boom, 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 and takes out those rows and takes out those columns, and then everything's nice and tidy. Now you don't have to worry about scrolling up and down anymore. Okay. So we've cropped it, and then the last thing I always like to do is turn off these grid lines. When you turn off the grid lines, then you're now able to have it look a little bit more graphical, maybe a little bit nicer. Maybe you just want to put in different kind of, or different color. Let's take a darker orange for the middle. If I select the cells first, for the middle lines. So there we go. Looks a little bit different, a little bit nicer in that manner. Okay. So there we go. We've got all of those things that are set up for us now. So it's starting to look a little bit nicer in our gradebook. Now, over here, we see the problem with these columns here, the grades, the actual grading columns over here. In this case, well, you know what? I can't even read that full thing, but when I hover my mouse over that cell, I get the dog year, and it says text rotation, fill cells, all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to select these, the headers, the titles of the assignments. I'm going to go right up here to the top, next to my little text wrapping and my horizontal alignment, text rotation. And I like to call this tippy text, because now I can take my text and I can tilt it up, and I can tilt it up by 45 degrees, or I could put it in as a specific number, like 42.5, and I could tilt it to that degree. And that looks really nice, doesn't it? Or not. Now, this is something that kind of threw me at first. I was like, why in the world are those all messy like that? That's not very nice. Well, what I found is that if you take these columns, let's put vertical lines in there. Those things will all change and go away, and they will line up as soon as you put in borders around those cells. Then they drop into alignment. So that's a little tip I learned just by playing around and playing around and seeing what would happen there. So that looks a little bit nicer too. So that's given a good look. Okay. So sheetscaping, we did a little bit of sheetscaping, and that is looking a lot nicer now as I go through and I work with my students. All right. Jump back over to our presentation here, and I came across this quote the other day, and this is my favorite quote from a guy called David Crevett, who is in charge of Coding is for Losers. So if you want to look up Coding is for Losers, it is a site. It is not anything bad about coding per se, but it's to say that you can actually learn a lot of those same thinking routines and protocols and logic that you need in a spreadsheet. You don't need to have to program something and do something a little bit more or in a different manner than you would with coding. So spreadsheets work fine. And VLOOKUP is that gateway drug to spreadsheet formulas, because once you learn the spreadsheet formulas, you realize how much really cool stuff there is out there, and you're like, oh wow, I can't imagine what's next. And that's kind of that's when you get those little geek bumps of that's something exciting that you just learned. So with this, and I talk about this one called Don't Trust Validate. So we're going to use data validation and some formulas in order to do the work for us. And these are a couple of them that we'll be playing with. So jump back over to our spreadsheet, and we're going to go into the menus, because what I want to have, I have these groups right here that they need to be filled in on my students' work. And I don't have them, and I want them to be in there in an appropriate manner. So I've got a menus tab here. And here's my groups. I've started to create it. My dogs, my cats. I've got a group of frogs. And I want to make sure that when the teachers enter these, when they fill it in for the student here in the gradebook tab, when they they have a little drop-down selector. That'd be cool. And then they wouldn't misspell the word, even something as simple as dogs. Yes, people can misspell it. So what I'm going to do is basically say whatever the list is in these cells here, I want whatever's in there to be options and a drop-down. Okay. So here's how we're going to go ahead and do that. First off, we're gonna name this range. We're gonna name this range. So I've selected extra, so it leaves some room for growth. And if I go to my data, I'm able to name this range, and this I'm gonna call groups. Group names. So it says those menus A2 to A9, that section right there, that is the group names. Now if I go over to my gradebook and I select all of these cells that I want to have that drop down in, I can right click or I can go to data validation, and I can do list from a range. So here's where I would go and click on this little thing there. And if I click over here and hit OK, see it jumped me and it selected all of the things there for it. That's the kind of cool part about group naming ranges, is that you get to move around a lot more quickly. If I hit OK, it says we have our list from a range. There's our range there. And here's the thing, show that drop-down list. When I hit save, if I go back over here to my gradebook now, I've got this. I've got dogs, cats, frogs. So you can go ahead and you can fill those in. So don't let them mess it up by misspelling. So you kind of define it, give them options. When you get a new animal in there, you got the snakes now. Cool thing, because we made it extra big, is that now in our little drop-down, snakes comes up. It's like magic. All kinds of stuff can happen there. So that gives us flexible ranges. And let's say in the end we wanted to take these menus here, and let's say that there were a whole bunch more, maybe a bunch of people that started adding in things here, and they got to repeating things, and we don't want that. So here next to this, I'm going to put in a formula called unique. Give me the unique names right here. This is a good thing to do when you're using voting. You're doing hand voting. You don't want to have duplicates. People can't vote more than once. You use the unique formula, and that gives you just the kids' names, or just one set of them in this case. And it looks like that's almost right, but I'm going to wrap that in a sort just to make sure now it's in alphabetical order. Okay, so stacking those formulas together can really be a cool thing. Okay. So that's my trust, don't validate, or don't trust, validate, with the different things you can do there with data validation and our formulas here. And this is the last one. This is laziness is a virtue. Never copy paste in a spreadsheet. You should not copy and paste in a spreadsheet. Instead, we have other options of doing that. Once you copy and paste it, it becomes a blank, or becomes a static copy. And here I've got this query formula, and this is what's really cool. So I've just demonstrated this because I knew it was going to run out of time. But here's a couple of things. Like imagine these are my two separate sets of parents. So let's just go ahead and we can throw this in here just to make them stand out a little bit. So here I got a couple of class sets of information. It's got the first name and last name of parent, and then the parent 2, and then this one's got some extra numbers. What if I wanted these all to be combined into one big list? Like this over here, look at that. It's happening right here. I've pre-baked it in my oven. What I've done is that I've used a formula that's called the query formula, and it is selecting this stuff over here. If I click there, I should highlight, let's get little guys in the way. Highlights where it is. It says, what are you going to do? I'm going to select everything because it's really simple. And then I'm going to wrap it in these curly braces. You see those? That second one there equals, and then it has a curly brace. Those curly braces is what allows you to stack things together. So this is one of my new favorite things, to be able to take data from different sources and pull it all into one list. Query that, I've selected everything, and then I've joined it. The key component here is that little semicolon, because what happens is that semicolon makes it stack it on top of each other. Just for fun, I'm going to change that to a comma, and watch this. I get mistakes, right? Because they have mismatched row size. So I don't have enough rows in my second column. So if this is 13, I just made them each 13. So now they're lined up side by side. So I just change this back to a semicolon. It stacks them, and the other way it puts them side by side. So laziness is a virtue, meaning have the spreadsheet do the work for you. Have it copy and paste these things over, because once one of these data sources changes, like if I say Chris, and really no, that's actually Christopher, and watch when I hit enter, watch over a cell or column M. Boom, right here. I don't know if you notice that, but let's look at Wanda. There's two Wandas. Well, we want this one to be Wanda 1, and the other one not to be Wanda 1. So look over at the right, and if you hit enter, it automatically updates. That's kind of the power of letting the spreadsheet do the work for you. So I know that was a lot, and that is a lot of things going on there at one time. But what I really am gonna enjoy doing is hearing from you guys and seeing, if there's any things that you're doing. Let me just stop sharing. Comes back to me. It's gonna take a look at me. In this case, with this, you're allowed to, or we get to take these different things. We get to do good things with them. Sorry, I'm distracted because I'm trying to get to the Q&A at the same time. But hopefully with some of those tips and tricks, you can take a little bit of that, use it in some way to help solve a problem for you, and hopefully you will be able to continue sharing that information. On the other screen, which I just popped open here, let's pop this open big. And when I wanted to point you in this presentation, there is this page here that's got different resources for you and links to those. So the Coding is for Losers website, also Sync Sisters. There are a couple of women who have some fantastic videos and tutorials out there, especially at a beginner's level. But they do some pretty powerful things as well. So it's not just beginner stuff, but they explain it in a very clear manner. A couple of online communities with the Google Sheets community. There's something probably like 4,000 or more spreadsheet geeks out there that would love to help you out with your spreadsheet community or with your spreadsheet problems. You can post to that community, and they will answer questions within seconds. It feels like there's always one of us out there that likes to help out with these things. There's also our tech team. We have a global community on Facebook and on Google Plus where you can share your ideas and what it is that you're doing, and then ways to keep learning. Hopefully, you guys have checked out the Google for Education Training Center and the certification pathways that are there. There's a lot of really good resources there, and there's some that are based around the products as well. We normally in the Education Training Center, it's got the different units and the themes that is going on, but there is a way of looking at it under the tools and resources that allow you to see, okay, where are sheets and where are all the different places, the different lessons that have sheets in them. So please take a look at that. And if you might want to check out, we have some events that might be coming up in your neighborhood as well. So with that, I'm going to take a look here and see if there are any other questions. Pull this back over here to me. See if there's any other questions that are in the Hangouts. If there are not any right now that I can get to, I will be putting those in the. I'll be answering those from our resources. So I'll add them into that. I think we can go back into the actual chat. We go afterwards, and we go back in and we pull it, complete those with the rest of those answers and anything that didn't get wrapped up during the actual session. So kind of with that, on behalf of Google for Education and all the fantastic presenters that have shared today and the keynotes that went earlier this morning, we'd like to thank you guys for watching. It's been fantastic. There's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to share, so please make sure you are doing your bit as well. And with that, I'd like to thank you again, and hopefully you guys have a good rest of your weekend or whatever day you end up watching this. See you later. Bye.